This is the Criterion Creeps podcast. And tonight we're talking about North by Northwest from 1959, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, as we delve into those Criterion Laserdisc collections. Ooh yeah. The tagline for this film, RJ. You ready for this?
I'm not.
It's a deadly game of tag, and Cary Grant is it.
I mean, not really. Or is it? I don't know. I guess
if you get got, you're dead. It's like the deadliest game of tag.
I mean, yeah,
makes sense.
I guess. All right.
And a synopsis for the film, surprisingly short. Advertising man Roger Thornhill is mistaken for a spy, triggering a deadly cross-country chase.
Who?
That'd be Cary Grant, RJ.
Cart?
Wow.
Are we talking about Cart Grant?
See, I want to know Archie. Archie.
Yes.
You know Archie Leach?
Yeah, a lady I work with calls me Archie, but I think it's because she thinks that's my real name.
But do you know who Archie Leach is?
I'm not aware. Is he on the North by Northwest page?
That is the birth name of one Cary Grant.
Archibald
Leach. Archibald Leach. Archie Leach.
Wow.
Then to the world, he became Cart.
I did not know Archibald Alec Leach was the name. And hey, he was his birthday was almost pretty close to mine, Jarrett. Not in terms of years, but in terms of days. First Barbara Stanwyck, now old Leach here. Cart Leach, eh? Wow. Yeah, he's weird anyways. But anyway, you keep going.
Okay. So, I mean, everybody knows North by Northwest, right?
I think so. If anything, just because of things like this, The Simpsons and, other TV showing it.
Yeah.
That's how I knew it.
Right. And I mean, it's funny because I think, was it the first or second episode that we ever recorded when you watched North by Northwest?
Well, so because when I logged this, it was like seen before, and I was kind of like, have I? I was like, because I was like, I know I've seen it in other shows, but I was like, have I actually watched this? And then I looked, and it's right in between Grand Illusion and Seven Samurai. So I don't know which episode I talked about it on, but it was either first or second. So. And
I think I remember when we decided we were going to start doing laser discs, and it's like, oh, we have to watch North by Northwest again, and you're like, oh, god damn it.
Yeah, and well, you get it too, though. You don't want to watch things before you have to, right?
I mean, I don't. This is I'd say a North by Northwest is maybe an exception to it, because it's kind of at the end of the day, it is just like a action comedy.
Sure,
but 1959 by way of Hitch.
Who? Like the guy I knew, Hitch?
Same guy.
Same guy?
Did Hitch have this on his VHS shelf?
No, he had the Fast and the Furious, the original one. I think 3 copies, because it was very important to him. But not this one, unfortunately.
But not this Big Al film?
Unfortunately, no. It was not a Hitch pick, and that's why I didn't take it as such. So, not a Hitch pick.
Unfortunate. Well,
yeah.
I've seen this movie at least a couple times before, but it has been a really, really, really long time since I've seen it last. So I was A-okay watching it again, because I would know at the end of the day, it's like, well, I know it's going to be like entertaining. It's probably going to be a very easy watch. And of course, it is one of those things where I didn't even bother checking what the runtime of this film was before starting. And I was a bit startled by how long this actually was, because this is like, what, 2 hours and 15 minutes thereabout?
Yeah, it is. And I remember when I watched this with Andy.
And it goes to the end. Like,
it goes to the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, what was I going to say? I watched it with Andy, and she was, I think we're at an hour and 35. And she's like, "What?" She's like, "How much is left?" Because we always like halfway through a movie we get snacky again. It's like we got to re-up our snacks. She's kind of just like, "How much is left?" Because maybe I'll get snacks now, or maybe I'll wait. And I was like, "Baby, there's still like an hour left." And she's like, "Holy shit!" So not that it drags or anything. It was longer than we expected it to be.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you're thinking this is like less little shy of 2, and then you're
that's what you think. Yeah.
Right.
But it's a long show.
You'd think wrong.
Yes, you would.
Yes,
you would, my friend.
So, let's go through this. Mm-hmm. So, North by Northwest, not to be confused with South by Southwest.
Which one's that?
Some assholes will say, well, the South by Southwest Festival takes its name and is a reference to North by Northwest. To which you go, give a nice slow clap to. Go.
Say, wow.
Bravo. You're blowing my mind here.
So you really did it, didn't you?
Yeah.
You really did it. And you say, wow, festivals in general. Wow.
There wouldn't be one without Alfred Hitchcock. Any festival. For anything. Furry festivals wouldn't be there.
No furry festivals without Hitch?
Nope.
Shit. Come on.
Damn.
Come on. Jarrett.
Some say. So anyway, so North by Northwest, it opens up with one of the best opening credits / scores you're ever going to get. I think that bombastic Bernard Herrmann score, as the kids say, it slaps.
Oh, and would Jared Duncan also say that it slaps?
Oh, it's amazing. Now. I was thinking about this while watching, because the whole movie's got it's that Bernard Herrmann score, because Bernard Herrmann becomes just so intrinsic to Alfred Hitchcock's movies at this point in time, like with Psycho, for instance, Vertigo, probably the most. But it's not like a score that I would want to own so I could pop on and listen. It's not that kind of film score, but it is definitely one where you're watching the movie and you could probably enjoy the movie just for that. For that music, because it really fits well with this movie, because this is a movie about movement. It's about motion, and the Saul Bass opening credits, those beautiful that big beautiful graphic design bastard Saul Bass, with those lines cutting across, cutting down. You're like, whoa, what's going on? What's this all about? And then it turns into this mundane shot of the side of a skyscraper. And then there's all these hustling, bustling shots of New York, people moving around, and it all comes to a sudden end as directed by Alfred Hitchcock comes across the screen, and we see some fat guy running to miss the bus.
This is my old bud Hitch, the guy who lives a block from me.
I think
you can tell from the patented velvet suit.
I think you're wrong on that. It was just some guy.
That's just your opinion, man.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. So then we cut to Cary Grant in a Madison Avenue building, getting off of a elevator, and he's talking very snappily and very fast, and so fast in that transatlantic accent we've talked about before. We're like, what's he saying?
You go, huh?
He's talking hypersonic.
You say, is that a Newfoundland accent? What is that?
Well, what's this guy?
What is that?
And he seems to be very amused with himself.
Well, he thinks he finds himself quite quippy, I believe is what it is. Quippy?
Yeah. I don't know if you watched any of the making of features on this.
I did not.
Okay.
I saw you did the whole gamut, so
I watched a whole slew of them. But yeah, so there's the one, what's it called? One for the Ages.
One for the Ages.
And it's just talking heads with a bunch of different directors like Curtis Hanson, Guillermo. Yeah. And they talk about how this image of Cary Grant here in North by Northwest sort of typifies the 1950s American man who has everything.
But nothing?
Well, as the story unfolds, you realize that he was living a superficial life. Not one with action and adventure.
Some would say that he's boring.
Talking about how several bartenders rely on me.
Is that a good thing?
Well, I mean, it helps the economy, so it must be good.
Well, the economy, Jared.
The economy.
The economy. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
You got to watch it.
So he's kind of being followed by his assistant as he's going to catch a cab to go to a lunch dinner.
A luncheon.
Sure. A luncheon with some colleagues. At this point, I ask RJ, what is the color of Cary Grant's hair in this?
It kind of mixes between that salt and pepper, where it's a little black, a little white, and then at some points in the start it's full gray, but then later it's not quite anymore full gray. I think what it is they ran out of that spray that you spray the hair gray with. I think they ran out of that later on, is my guess.
Right. So, because I was like wondering, like, it's kind of black and gray, but also blue because of the weird lighting, which really reminded me of comic books from like this kind of era, because of the CMYK coloring, how they would treat like light differentiation, so the black wouldn't just be flat, so they kind of put like this line of blue to indicate like reflection. And so but I've never seen like sort of this hint of grayish blue in a man's hair before, but that's not true. It seems very unique to when you want to like age hair. Whatever, you would do that in the 50s. You kind of give this little hint of blue, and it's one of those things I just wanted to mention. And this movie had it.
Yeah. So. Well, have you ever seen the Jetsons?
I have.
I think there's blue hair there. Actually, no, there isn't.
I don't think so.
Shit. What am I thinking of?
Neutrinos?
Sure. Yeah, the neutrinos from TMNT.
Yeah. Decades later.
But no, actually, you for real, yeah. I didn't really think of it before, but he does have a bluish kind of tint.
Yeah.
So it's there. Yeah. I'll co-sign that.
I guess I should also mention, because I already mentioned the opening credits. How did you feel about those? And what do you think about Saul Bass's film title sequences, which he's famous for?
I mean, I did like the title sequence, and I do like the music, but I'm not going to lie to you, Jared. I turned my volume down a couple pegs because it was a little oppressive. But I liked the intro. I just had to turn it down a little bit because I went, wow, that's loud. I said it like that too. That's loud. And I had to turn it down a little.
So,
but other than that, good.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Good. I'm glad. So watching this movie is, to me, to overplay my hand here. So yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of North by Northwest. But watching this time, I was really aware of, like, often you watch these movies and you're not thinking too much about, I don't know, I don't find, sometimes I'm just trying to get the story down, but if I've seen a movie a few times, I can start appreciating other elements of the production. So with this, I was really aware of the camera work, because one of the things that, I'm not sure exactly how true this is, but supposedly Alfred Hitchcock had a lens that he was very fond of, 50 millimeter lens that he would shoot like everything with. But it's also his style of how he composites things. And you could really tell watching this whole movie that this is a guy who was shooting this for a big screen. The only way his movies that he imagined ever being watched properly was in theaters. And so the idea that these movies might show up on TV wasn't something he was thinking about. That was more like a Stanley Kubrick thing. Or even like, when Spielberg started demanding that his films get letterbox releases so you could watch them in proper aspect ratio. Hitchcock
demanded that they did?
Yeah, Spielberg, that was one of his things, is like he wanted his movies in letterboxed. Like, so there'd be copies. Like, you could get both, but he thought it was very important that letterbox existed back when we had CRT screens. That's my understanding. Maybe that's wrong. I haven't looked into it for a long time, but probably. I recall this. And then, but I know Kubrick, he started changing his aspect ratios to accommodate the fact that his movies would only ever really be seen on TV screens for the most part, which is interesting move. But Hitchcock is like, well, fuck, I'm just making movies, which is kind of what I thought of when I saw Lawrence of Arabia for the first time in theater. And you're like, holy shit. Like, I can't imagine, like, it's absurd, the difference of watching it like this, or watching it at home. Obviously, we don't have a choice. A lot of the time, we're just stuck with what we got. We live in Creepsville. We barely have a theater screen between us to watch. Yeah. So watching this, though, it's really evident, like, how greatly shot. This isn't how much it feels like a movie. It doesn't feel like you're watching a glorified Netflix show on a movie screen. You're kind of like, well, this is fine, I guess, but it doesn't feel like it's taking full advantage of what you can do with like, depth of field and color and like putting people in the frame. When they're walking across the screen, they feel giant. They feel like there's power to them. And I mean, I was really aware of that watching North by Northwest this week. So, Cary Grant, he's wearing a giant suit.
Oh, it's big. He's kind of a gangly guy though too. Like the way his body looks, like he looks like his arms are big or his body is big.
Well, I think it was different diets back then, RJ.
A lot of corn.
Yeah.
Or not enough corn.
Or not enough corn. Yeah, not enough corn in their oils and such. I don't know, but he's a fit man. But but the suit. I think maybe that was the style at the time for it to be a little like
style at the time,
a little free flowing.
I see. Yeah,
but we'll get there, especially when we get to that undershirt of his, like when he has his white shirt, just like the flaps. They just run down to his knees almost. You're like, you can't find a shirt like that anywhere when you're clothes shopping.
Can't. But what about those yellow underpants?
Yeah, I didn't notice yellow underpants.
You didn't notice his yellow underpants?
I don't think so.
What are you fucking nuts, dude?
Do you have a screenshot of this?
I can get one.
Oh God.
Surely I can get one. But yeah, whenever like when he's showering stuff, he's got yellow boxers on.
Right.
You see him twice when he pretends to shower, and then you see it again when he goes to the hospital and they're like, we got you stumped, bud. And he goes, yeah, no. When he's putting his clothes on, you see his yellow boxers there too.
I didn't notice the yellowness of them.
They're yellow, 100% yellow.
I was more looking at the length of his shirt.
Well, I mean, length is one thing, but yellow is another.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I gotcha. Then we start getting these references to Roger Thornhill's mother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, okay. Wait. I'll let you finish. But
okay.
I would like to comment on this relationship a little bit.
It's pretty. It's well, it's kind of like the Alfred Hitchcock thing. Like if you start like thinking about this psychoanalytically, his obsession with women and a particular type of woman, blonde women, correcting them, putting them in weird situations, but then also the role that mothers play in like belittling their sons, or like we're having this control because like his next movie after this is Psycho.
Do you think he had a mother thing, like a problem?
I'm sure that there is something there, but this one's kind of played for laughs, and there's some good stuff there, but we'll get there. So anyway, this is all about a misunderstanding as he's having his dinner with his colleagues. He's trying to get the attention of a waiter who is calling out for what's the name he gets mistaken as? George Cahill. What's the name of the person he's mistaken for? I never actually wrote that down.
Kaplan.
George Kaplan.
Yeah.
Kaplan. So he puts his hand up just as the waiter is calling out for this because he doesn't care about this Kaplan phone call. But then we get this smash cut into the goons. Who are
hired goons.
Yeah, the hired goons, and they're like, there he is. There he is, Kaplan.
Mm-hmm. Kaplan. It's a George Kaplan.
Yeah. So Thornhill gets up, and is he going to make a call to his mother?
Well, yeah, so he sits down and he's like, by gumption, I just feel awful. And the businessmen that he's there to meet, they're like, why? And he's like, well, I told my assistant to call my mother. She ain't going to be home. Now she ain't going to know that I called her. I got to send her a telegram. This is my card grant, by the way. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I might need to got a call her, send her a telegram. And so the guy out there, the valet guy is like, George Kaplan. But then he sticks up his hand. He's like, hey, bellboy, I need you to send a telegram to my mother. But then the hired goons are like, oh, he responded to the Kaplan thing. It's Kaplan. It's taxes. The thing with the fingers means the taxes. Mm-hmm. Is what they say. So, yeah, it's he wanted to send a telegram to his mother. He just picked unfortunate timing.
Right.
I believe is the moral of this story.
And at this point, he gets wrong-manned.
Yes.
Which is one of the tropes of a Hitchcock film.
Mm-hmm.
Where these guys think he's Kaplan. He's like, I'm not Kaplan. but that doesn't matter to them. So
they go classic Kaplan.
So they kidnap him at gunpoint. But I thought that, and I guess the comedy here is that Thornhill is like, well, I gotta just go sit down. Like you're just like, whatever you guys are doing, I'm busy. And they're like, no, you're coming with us. I'm like, well, that's good, but I'm gonna go sit down. I got friends. They're gonna be worried about me. And they're like, oh, he's got a gun. Do you think if Cary Grant's character had told these guys to fuck themselves, they actually would have shot him dead in this restaurant?
I mean, he did everything other than saying that, because he was basically just, well, I mean, and he downplays a lot. He's like, you're coming up, he's like, all right, and then they got him in the car, and he's like, not every day you get kidnapped. And he's like, I appreciate it, boys, but see you later.
And his tie goes flying.
And yeah. And then he does try to escape, and then they don't even move, and then he goes, damn, the door's locked. He said, you thought of everything.
Yeah.
So I think if he did tell him to fuck off, then it could have been something different.
Okay, so we jump to the car, and he's in the middle. And at this point, I make a mention here. I'm like, is Cary Grant's tan real? Because this guy is brassy.
We had this exact discussion in my house. Andy looked at me and said, she said, is that California tan or is that a machine? And I went, I was like, I think it's just California tan. Like, I think he's just a leathery old bastard who lived in California. But I was like, I don't know though. It's hard to say. What's your thought? I think it's California tan, but Andrea wasn't convinced.
I should say not bronzy. He's a little bronzy.
He's a little bronzy.
I think there's some enhancement.
Yeah, it could be. Maybe it's some sort of moisturizer.
But I mean, a man of that era maybe is like, well, you don't look good if you're not tanned.
Well, I mean, Cart Grant is doing everything he can to uphold.
Well, he's a cart. You don't put carts inside. You leave them outside.
You can't put the cart before the horse. You know what I mean, Jarrett?
No, it's true. So here I'm making a comment. A note. Daylight horror. So in daylight, in broad daylight, we have a kidnapping. Yes. Because I remember, RJ, when Midsommar came out, everyone started talking about daylight horror, and everyone was talking about Hitchcock. Well, this is the real deal. Because, you used to have a man who was just literally kidnapped in broad daylight, and there's nothing that can be done. And then he's brought to this mansion.
Yeah.
And it's just broad daylight.
This whole movie is daylight horror because everything, like half of it's night, half of it's day. But it's my take of daylight horror is when horror happens when it's not supposed to, I guess. But I don't think it has to be the daylight. I hate that. I hate that expression.
You love it. I know you love it.
I hate it.
And then we're introduced to one of my favorite movie actor villains since I was a kid. Even though it's I was trying to figure out where did I first ever encounter him as a villain as a kid, and I don't know what it would have been. But James Mason, I love his he's just perpetually exhausted in how banal his evil is.
Yeah,
it's almost he's a nice guy, but he's just we don't have to do something about this, do we? Can't you just give us what we need?
So it would make it a lot easier on everyone. If you would just, what does he say, Jared?
Mm-hmm.
He says something quite like this. He says, it would be good for everyone to be part of the grayness of how I talk.
It's like we have a real Englishman here.
It's like you got a real Englishman for this movie, Jarrett.
Mm-hmm.
I will fill that hole for you.
Oh, I bet you will.
Don't say it like that, though.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Fair.
Yeah.
So James Mason was he Van Damme?
Jean-Claude
Van Damme.
Yep. We get him, and then we have our friend Mr. Bela Lugosi.
Yes,
there as well.
Martin Landau. Because so when Martin Landau first comes in, I'm kind of like, well, that's an kind of odd looking guy. And then I'm like, wait a minute. And then I looked it up and I went, oh shit, that is Martin Landau.
You didn't realize it was Mark?
Not immediately. I didn't. He was fairly young compared to my mental image of Martin Landau, watching him in 70s, even 80s stuff. Where you see him where he starts looking more like what I imagine him to look like, not young Landau. But it is something of a stroke of brilliance of whoever decided, hey, this guy would make a great Bela Lugosi.
Yes,
because it's
I
like,
agree.
how do you get that from this? Even like that type of
it's his eyes.
big brain thinking.
It's his eyes, man. Like, and I know, like, I don't think Bea had blue eyes like Mart does. I'm calling him Mart too, by the way. You know, he's a close personal friend of mine. But it's funny you say that because Andrea had the same thing. She's like, who is this guy? She's like, I know him. I was like, that's Martin Landau. She's like, who? Yeah. And so I showed her a picture of old Martin Landau, and she's like, oh,
that
of course.
Guy.
Yeah, she's like, I knew him, and I was like, it's those eyes, man, those piercing blues, baby.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know it, it's there.
So he's like the lieutenant.
Yeah, he's like the capo.
Yeah,
he's like the Silvio.
Yeah, he's a sub boss compared to like the other goons.
Other goons.
So they think that he's a spy named Kaplan.
Yeah,
and of course this is an issue because Roger Thornhill is not Kaplan, and nothing he can say can convince them otherwise. They're like, well, that's exactly what a spy who would not want us to know that he's a spy would tell us.
It's very well. They say only a spy would say they're not a spy. Come on.
Yeah. So it's an impossible scenario.
Yes.
That might be solved very easily with the internet now, because you could just go, okay, let's take a look at this guy. Oh, hey, there he is. That's who his name is. How long does that go back?
Well,
it's like, no, he's been doing this for 20 years. I was like,
I was saying they thought of that because they say he's like, well, you want to see my ID? He's like, you want to see that my license? And they say, oh, we know how well that they forged that stuff.
Right. Well, yeah. See, that's not good enough. But I think nowadays, I mean, like there could be a fake website, but I think it'd be like, you could probably go on the Wayback Machine and look at the early days of Roger Thornhill's earlier ad campaigns. You can't fake that.
Well, I mean, I Photoshop myself into like a lot of things, like, you know,
precarious situations.
Well, anything that Bernie was in, you know, like the Selma walks, and then I was at the creation of Mount Rushmore. I Photoshopped myself in there.
Yeah. I didn't realize you were Abraham Lincoln, by the way.
Well, I never told a lie, Jarrett.
No.
We all know this.
And I'm Thomas Jefferson, slave owner.
I mean, you kind of look like him. You have a similar feature.
Apparently.
Similar haircut, at least.
Similar.
No
sideburns.
I don't want to say the same. I just want to say similar.
Similar. So libations are had, RJ.
Yes, they are.
As they're like, I believe it's like Martin's like, hey, can I pour you a drink? And he's not going to take no for an answer. And of course he tries to get away, and they're like, oh no, you're going to have a drink. It's okay. And then they hold him down, and we have this shot of Cary Grant looking over as this like gigantic glass of bourbon's being poured for him. We're kind of like, why even waste the glass? Just like use the bottle.
I thought the same thing, but then in my mind I went, it's to show that he has to drink it all. I get it.
Yeah, and it's cinematically makes much more sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Because that's the line that's where they cut off at. That's where they end that scene, and then we transition to them loading up a very intoxicated Mr. Thornhill into a car where they're going to set it up, where they're going to take this guy they think is this agent trying to infiltrate them, because they're the baddies, and they're going to send him to his death off an ocean cliffside.
Yeah, it's just a slow drive over the hill.
Yeah, and so they get him pushed, and he's kind of moving along, and as he's going, he kind of comes to his senses, and we get some pro drunk driving action, which
we get some professional drunk driving on this. I think it's funny too. The ease at which he pushes that guy out of the car is something to behold as well, because that guy just falls right out of that car, and you go, oh shit,
yeah,
he fell right out of there. And then we do get our buddy Cart here, just he's kind of moving his head back and forth, wide eye. Just
we see acting.
I liked his drunk driving though. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, we get some hijinks. We get like a chase where a man's not even aware that he's being chased. He's just kind of like staying on the road as best he can. And then he winds up with his antics, he gets the attention of a police officer, and with the appearance of the police, this of course has it so that the James Mason's men, Van Damme's men, can no longer follow and make it a nice clean kill. So he gets taken into custody for drunk driving. We get his defense of 2 men poured a bottle of bourbon into me. And they're like, yeah, we've heard that one before.
They said, we all been there, Chief. It's not a good enough excuse.
That's right. Cary Grant's lawyer here is played by Maxwell Smart's Chief from the hit 60s television show Get Smart. I don't know if you knew that.
I know Steve Carell. Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then we are introduced to Mrs. Thornhill, his mother.
Yes.
And she's a real ball buster.
Well, I find their relationship strange. I like that she kind of rips him because it's funny. She's just like, you little wiener, and she, he'll be like, these men are trying to kill me, and she's like, is that so?
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, that's fun.
And your flights of fancy, Roger.
Mm-hmm. The only thing that's strange to me though is they're kind of overall like 100%. He's older than she is. Their overall relationship together is strange because I think he's older than she is, and then they're very casual where he's like, Mom, go ask the guy for the key, and it's like, I don't want to do that. He's like, here's $10, and it's like, I don't want to do it still. And he's like, here's $50, go ask for the key, and she's like, okay, and it's just like it almost should have just been his secretary. Like they introduced her and then she never came back. You know what I mean?
Well, okay, just so you're aware, she is 8 years older than Cary Grant.
But does he not look old? Does he not look older than her? It doesn't look like she could be his mother.
Well, maybe not.
Is my thing.
But yeah, I don't know. They didn't make her super old or anything like that, which is fine.
Yeah.
She takes care of herself. And maybe Roger Thornhill, he's drinking one too many bourbons.
Well, too many bourbons in the afternoon.
I've seen Mad Men. I know how they carried on. You
ever eat a ton of oysters? And then climb up all the 100 stairs?
No.
No, that happened in Mad Men once.
It did.
It's an episode I saw.
Yeah.
It's an episode I saw one time.
So, one little clue leads to the next, and soon enough. So Thornhill, just he pays his fine for drunk driving, and it's enough of this. And then there's a thread they pick up where there is the guy he's being mistaken for is at a hotel. And so he goes to check it out. Let's get to the bottom of this and see who this guy is. And of course, this just keeps adding more and more to why bad people would think that he is who he is, because he's like, so you're in your hotel room under this name of Kaplan, and you think that we're supposed to believe that you're not him.
I mean, to be honest,
it's fun. It's funny though, right?
Yeah.
It's just it looks, everything he does digs himself deeper into the hole.
He makes every wrong decision.
Right.
Everything he does is the wrong thing.
And he's bringing his mom along for the ride.
Yeah, he's getting her involved.
I think there's the one bit that is funny is where he's bribing his own mother to go sweet talk their way to get the key to the room, and he's like, go over there and tell him. It's like, well, I'm not going to do that. $10. And she's like, what do you think? You think you pay me $50? And then she's like, looks at it. There's that little moment of, and then she takes the money and goes and does it. Because
would you do it for $50?
Every man's got a price, RJ.
What's your price?
Money.
Yeah, but how much money?
To commit a capital crime like lying to a hotel desk clerk?
Is that a capital crime?
Yeah, you'll get the chair for that in New York.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't. It's a very serious business.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Really?
So the bad guys,
yes,
the baddies, they make a phone call up to the room, and he answers it. He's like, "No, this is Thornhill." It's like, right, you answer the phone of a guy named Kaplan, and you're telling me you're not Kaplan. Oh, right, dude. And they're like, they're coming to get us. And so they slowly kind of get to the elevator, which is exactly how they'd be coming up. And They get off, they see them, they follow them right into the next elevator, and so you get the moment of them standing in the elevator, and then the mom turns over, "You're not really trying to kill my son, are you?" And then everybody has a big laugh.
She said what we were all thinking. She said what we were all thinking, Jarrett.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The absurdity of the situation. And
we were all thinking it, and she said it.
Yeah. So, what's their next stop? Why? Well, sorry, I just skipped one. They actually do also, before they went to the hotel, they went back to the mansion that they were, that he said this is where Townsend lives. And of course, everyone's acting like, "Oh, you got so drunk last night. Oh, we were so worried about you.
Did you make it home okay?"
And he's like, "No, it's like, what are you talking about? Of course, I'm not. Of course, everyone's calling him Thornhill, and it's like, you said to this me, oh, no, that didn't happen. Everyone's like, yeah, sure, pal, sure, this is what happened. This woman's so nice and so kind. And of course, we see one of the goons is the gardener, just so the audience doesn't get confused.
Yeah, and it's just like, well, they don't want an unreliable narrator.
That's right.
About that?
They don't want to play that game.
They don't want to play that game.
So, back to the United Nations, which, I don't know, it's kind of a novel to be like, oh, this is probably back when people really were into the United Nations a bit more than they are now. But I think that their stock has definitely fallen since this time, or in its other like serial numbers filed off version that we see in Batman the movie.
Which one?
The Adam West one, where we have dignitaries that were turned into colored powder with a ray gun and then vacuumed up.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, who hasn't been there, though?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've all been there.
So,
come on.
Thornhill's at the United Nations, and he finds Mr. Townsend. But this Townsend's not the same guy that was saying he was Townsend the day before. Because as we learn later, it's Van Damme, but I've already mentioned that part. So they're having a discussion, kind of argument back and forth. And just before he can find out the truth, one of the goons, he throws a knife from across the room, stabbing Mr. Townsend in the back. He falls over. And of course, what do you do when you're holding up a man and you've been like being kind of falsely accused of things and whatnot? Well, you're like, well, there's a knife in this guy's back. I better grab it. And then
pull it out.
This guy never took first aid or anything because you're not supposed to take things out because they can actually cause the bleeding to get worse. And there he is holding the knife. And everyone's like, he did. He's like, no, I didn't. It's like, wah, wah.
That's what I mean. He makes every wrong decision. If he had just like took a step back and went, whoa, this guy got a knife in his back, everyone got to help him, he would have been completely absolved.
It is like, but I think it's a really cool scene though. Like it really,
it is.
It creates like the tension really well because he's totally surrounded by people, and then he has to like start using the knife to be like, stay back.
I love that picture that I sent you of where it comes up later in the train station, but the picture that they take of him, he's like, oh, he's got the knife like up there.
And then there's Diplomat slain at UN, the newspaper.
Yeah. Just the same picture. It's good.
That's just Cary Grant, I thought.
They got that. That was off panel.
Right.
He was infamous.
When not killing people.
When not killing people, he spent his spare time killing people.
Right.
If that makes sense.
And then we get some patented Alfred Hitchcock exposition.
Where we get a little bit of it.
So we cut to this room of characters we've never met before, never seen them, and they're all like reading the newspaper, and they're like, "Oh wow, what a dilly of a pickle that guy finds himself in that we've created because we are the architects of creating this fictional spy named Kaplan that because we're trying to infiltrate this group and we needed to create a double or an extra layer of protection of an agent because we actually have a real agent that's in and we want to throw off the scent on that agent, so we created this fictional one. We created this whole background that this guy just happened to fall ass backwards into, and they're like, well, what are we going to do about it? And it's like, well, that's his problem.
They're like, sounds like a personal problem. You ask them. And you could.
Then they're like, what can we do to help him? It's like, and I think it's like, well, that sounds very, very callous. It's like, no, we're not being callous.
You didn't think they were?
Well, that's what they said.
Oh.
I thought it was funny, though, because eventually they have to explain these things. And I guess here's the scene where, like, oh, hey, just so you the audience are in the know. Here's what's happening. So just because we know you're not the brightest out there in the audience, so we're going to lay it out for you so you know what's going to come about later, because some of these characters are going to show up and you'll be like, oh, that's the professor.
He's the guy. He's the one. The thing with the fingers means the taxes.
With the glasses.
With the glasses. Yeah, I know what you mean. I follow.
Yeah. So our man, our boy, Cary Grant Cart, he's on the run again. And so there's a scene where he's like getting onto a train car without paying. Yep. And it's like he's stealing movies on the internet, RJ.
Hey, you wouldn't steal a car, would you?
Mm-hmm.
You can't steal a train seat.
You wouldn't board a train.
You wouldn't board a train without paying, would you?
That's right.
You know, I actually got ticketed for something like that once.
Oh.
I was taking the train in Calgary, and I'm not even lying. And this is going to sound dumb, but I didn't realize that you had to buy the ticket first. I went down to the platform. I was like, where are the tickets at? And then a guy came. He's like, where's your ticket? I was like, I don't got one. I was looking. He's like, nah, it's not a good enough excuse. He wrote me $100 ticket. And I went, holy fuck.
Did you take it and throw it in the garbage?
I wrote a letter to the Calgary, whatever it was, the Metro or whatever. And I was like, I didn't know. And I'm sorry. Do I really have to pay this ticket? And then they never replied. So I did have to pay the ticket.
Oh.
Yeah. So it happens. But I genuinely didn't know. I was just like, there was no barrier to stop me. Like, it wasn't like you had to scan a ticket to get in, or there was a guy that was just like, hey, you can't come past here. It was just like, come on in, everyone. And I was like, all right, great. And then they're like, hey, you can't be here. And I went, what? So I feel it. But there was a guy trying to take tickets. He just chose not to listen.
Look at this scofflaw I'm doing this podcast with.
Hey, I paid the ticket. I paid my due. So
only after you got caught.
I didn't realize I was doing anything wrong. That was the biggest issue.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know.
So back to the movie.
Yeah.
So he's trying to like hide out on the train, trying to squirrel away. But then there's this suddenly striking blonde woman who for some reason decides to assist this man. This stranger, because she maybe likes what she sees.
She's a little overly friendly.
Oh yeah, as will be discussed at their dinner.
Yeah, a bit overly friendly.
Yeah, so he's on the train. There's this one shot that they kind of go back to a few times, but it's kind of like an outdoor shot from outside of the train, and it's just the train kind of going through this like alongside this lake or river, and it's like kind of looking out at the mountains. It is like a really nice looking shot that it seems so uncharacteristic for an Alfred Hitchcock movie. It doesn't look like anything in the rest of the movie because it's very naturalistic.
But you don't like nature shots?
No, I like it.
No, I said he don't like nature shots.
I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it fits his big movie staging.
I see what you mean.
Oh, and there is like some actually really awesome shots that I should have mentioned too when he's escaping the UN, like that overhead shot, because they couldn't act. It was, I think, illegal to shoot things like to shoot the UN or to shoot around it or in it, so they had to like create it all from scratch, which they had to do with Rushmore as well. But you get these like really great overhead shots of like, you know, the world caving in on a man who's on the run, and he's just a small figure in a big picture of things. Symbolic, RJ. Symbolic.
What's it symbolic of?
I don't know, of what I just said.
But what is it really? What's the metaphor?
That Cart Grant is a bronze god.
Well, but you said he seemed like it was juked, like it wasn't really him.
Wow, that's the lie. Maybe it's at the end of the day, it's all a lie.
That's the lie?
No. But hey, how about that shot of Cary Grant coming out of the toilet because he's hiding, because he's trying to be like you.
What do you mean he's trying to be? I've never hid in the toilet.
He doesn't want to get caught for not paying the ticket price.
Well, I didn't hide though. I just didn't know I did anything wrong. Wait, huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
So he ducks the train conductor, and I have to wonder, I'm like, do you think like on trains that exist, do they still do this, where they go ticket please? And do you think it's for purely like aesthetics of like, well, you know, I'm on a train, it would be very nice, just like in the movies, if the train conductor person or whoever would like go around. I guess the train conductor is driving the train, but one of the train people would like ask me for my ticket. And do you think if they said, if I said I can't find my ticket, they go, oh, well, you're going to give you the bum's rush up the caboose, and I'll just throw you up the back of a train?
I think so, yeah.
That'd be cool.
I think it'd be within their right to do it as well.
So,
you know what I mean?
we get Cary Grant winds up going on an impromptu dinner date with this blonde woman.
She encouraged it, Jared.
Oh, because she was like, well, I told him to actually seat you when you came by.
Yeah, and he says, hey, how forward are you for a dame?
Mm-hmm.
You can't be doing these kinds of things. I'm Jimmy Stewart.
Eve. And this is the character's name is Eve Kendall, played by Eva Marie Saint.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what is it that Cary Grant says? Women frighten me. I fear I might have to start making love to them.
No, well, yeah, he says something about like he's like, I'm afraid to. I have a couple pictures of
screenshots
here.
with subtitles.
There's a couple. Well, actually, no, I didn't have the subtitles, but I have pictures of the dialogue. I know that sounds weird, but I'll explain later. But there was one thing where she said something like he goes, I'm afraid to talk to him because if I start talking, then I can't help but like sleep with these women. And then she says something basically like, that's why we're talking, where he basically,
va-va-voom.
Yeah, he's basically like, I can't help myself. I'm going to put myself onto these women. And she's like, I'm here for it, baby.
Into these women.
Yeah, which is
how the movie ends, by the way.
It is. And here's another one. I can't remember where this happened, but Eve says, I'm a big girl. And he says, yeah. And in all the right places, too.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden style.
About those tits.
He says, yeah, you sure have developed. And then you go,
what? I had a note here about Cary Grant blurting out, whoops. I'm like, what was that, though?
I remember that, too. Whoops. Yeah. And you're like, what? I can't remember where it is either, but it is a strange one. Whoops. You go, huh? Weird. Very weird.
So I mean, obviously you've seen this movie before, but yeah. I mean, at what point do you think you would have realized watching it the first time, you're like, oh, she's the undercover spy?
I mean, pretty much as soon as she starts, she's just like, I don't know you, but get naked. I'm like, so that seems a little suspicious. Yeah. That's what it was for me.
A little bit.
Where he's up in the thing and she's like, want me to join you? I was like,
yeah.
I was like, no one would do that.
I believe William Friedkin described the dialogue of that whole exchange in the dining car, the sexiest dialogue I've ever seen in a film.
No.
Okay.
Just no.
This is one man's opinion, RJ. It's one man's opinion.
Just no. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. And then, so they have to get off the train. I guess they like beat up one of the employees and take his outfit, but they also give him money, so it's only half a crime, I guess.
Would you get paid to be beat up?
I mean, what are we talking about here?
Don't know.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to because it hurt. I don't like pain, RJ.
Well, exactly. So would it be worth it for this guy? Like he got money, but he got beat up.
I mean, you think that the other part of it would be that like you don't tell them what happened.
I know, but say one day you just woke up and you're like, oh my God, and you're like, I just got beat up real bad, and you're like, but here's $20. Do you think it'd be worth it?
No.
Yeah.
$20.
Well, how much do you think they gave him?
Probably $20. That's 1959 money.
Yeah, but he's dishing out money left and right. He's tipping bellmen when he's not even like the guest in the hotel room. He's fucking tossing money all over the place.
Because he's a madman.
I guess. Yes.
Then we get part of his disguise. After he dumps his outfit, we get to see him hiding behind some shaving cream. And we get the hilarity of a man shaving with a woman's razor. And my notes here was...
I didn't realize it was a woman's razor. I just thought it was like,
I guess like back then you're supposed to be using,
razor.
I guess, but I guess it's like, but I think that maybe that like men just had straight razors back then. And then the idea that you have like a smaller one, but it's like a lot of men's razors look exactly like that. That's kind of part of the scam nowadays of like the markup, depending on, I guess, however you identify, your bathroom supplies cost less or more than another person's, even though they're the same. They're just different color.
Really?
No.
Are you kidding me?
No. I do. I'm kidding.
Well, actually, I do know that women's stuff is very expensive compared to men's, and probably not rightfully so. Not rightfully so.
So. My notes here get a little sloppy. I guess I'm missing that there's a transition point for when they get. So now they're in Chicago.
After they leave the train?
Yeah, they leave the train, and I believe they're in Chicago. I think they go to a hotel, and they get a new lead. And this is also, I think, a point where I think Cary Grant's getting a little suspicious. But I think that might happen after the cornfield scene. So there's a phone call that she gets where she's telling Thornhill where to go to find Kaplan, or to find out what's happening with Kaplan. But it turns out it's Martin Landau on the other end of the phone, and he goes off. He catches a bus to the middle of nowhere.
I think what happens too is like at some point it's either this one or the second time they actually part ways, but then he finds her again at the hotel. Is that the second time?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Can't remember exactly. Yeah. But so we get to the scene in the middle of nowhere, which it's kind of like one of those incredibly iconic scenes in like all of like American filmmaking, I guess.
It's the shower scene with the knife, right?
Yeah, it's right up there. Like it's another one of those like big scenes that you've probably seen because of references to animation over and over and over again. Yeah. But it is like a really fascinating scene because
I like the slow build.
Yeah, well, it's completely silent. There's no Bernard Herrmann music, and it's just Cary Grant standing in the middle of nowhere, and it's like it's daylight, RJ, and we have all these cars ripping by, so it's all like using sound design of just cars driving and him getting blasted by empty of middle of nowhere dust, and he's just like scrunching up as these vehicles blast by him. He's just waiting, and then a car comes around the corner and drops the guy off, and it drives away. And then we have this like really amazing shot of just like two men standing like full body across the road from one another, and you're like thinking, well, is this the guy he's been waiting for? Is this his meetup? And he goes and talks to him. He's just this plain guy waiting to catch the bus. And then we get this observation, I don't know why that crop duster's dusting over there. There ain't no corn. Well,
there ain't no crop over there.
See you later.
Then
of course it goes back to Cary Grant just standing, waiting, and then you see the crop duster kind of take this turn and it starts going toward him. And then we have this buildup of like Cary Grant's face, like, huh? And then he's like, oh shit! And then we have the entire sequence of him fleeing from an aerial assault, where apparently he's also being shot at with like I don't know what caliber of bullets, but
I don't know which crop duster has a machine turret on the other end of it, but I like it.
Well, this one did.
100%.
So this scene is amazing, and then it builds up. So he's trying to duck out. You think, oh, he's going to get into the cornfield. The guy can't see him. Well, I can start dusting him and smoke him out. And he does. And he makes one big last run. He sees this like big oil tanker driving by. And he stands in front of it, waves it down, and he's not going to move because he's got to make it stop. And then just as it's about to drive him over, it comes to just a stop as he has to go flat down. And then the crop duster just smashes into the side of the oil tanker. And it's like, whoa. And these guys are like, you got to get out of here and run. It's going to blow. And then we get Cary Grant with the like most slow, stumbling walk away from this burning oil tanker that's going to go.
He's tired.
He's very tired.
In real life.
Then we have the other cross cut. He's like, yeah, I'm you see he's holding back after blasting off earlier, just getting wherever he needs to. Great stuff. Great stuff. And then he steals one of the locals' trucks, gets back to Chicago, and of course he's thinking about this whole thing. It's like, wait a minute. How did she was on the phone and she got these directions to go here, but why would she send me to the middle of nowhere? And of course, like, he's surprised to see her. Of course, he's kind of a little pissed off, but then she like immediately runs to him and throws herself into him, and he's like, what's going on here?
What was going on there?
Well, because she's a double agent. That's the big reveal. That's like just on the tip of our tongues. And soon enough, so Cary Grant pretends to go have a shower while whistling "Singing in the Rain." And then we get that long shirt.
And
yellow
the
boxers. Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't notice that.
I was all about the long
shirt.
shirt.
Wear underwear, so
right.
That could, maybe you just had blinders to it.
Always,
I guess.
always nude.
Yeah.
So Cary Grant kind of heads down and finds Eve dining and hanging out with Mr. James Mason.
Jean-Claude.
And he's like, well, isn't this a scene fit for something out of Charles Addams, referencing the Addams family?
I thought he meant Ansel Adams.
Ansel Adams. Maybe her too.
Are they the same?
Or him.
Is he the same?
I don't know.
Something.
So anyway, man, Cary is pissed. He is so mad. And like, there's nothing, and it's one of those, again, those scenes where there's like everybody's around, so you can't do anything particularly
at the auction house.
At the auction house, yeah, you can't do anything, but everyone's just like playing their cards out and just seething.
He really lays into her too. He's like, look at this little whore, and is like, I bet she beds everyone.
Yeah,
some real
Walter Sobchak.
Yeah, and she's just crying, and he's like, she cried for you too. She cried for me. And then he's just like, oh my God, he's pretty vicious in that scene, Jarrett. He's like, who wouldn't she go get naked for?
Yeah, he's a little bitter.
He's like, yeah, he's something, all right.
No. Yeah. So of course the strategy here is just like, well, we're gonna leave, and my goons are gonna wait and grab you, and we're gonna finish the job. Cary Grant does some quick improvising, and he starts doing a little bit of a comedy shtick to get the attention of the auction house without saying that he's in danger, but just acting like he's an asshole. And starts doing fake bids, starts calling things fake, rousing the stiffs, which I'm sure Hitchcock was very amused by, because I'm sure he's gone to a number of auction bidding things and he thought they were very stupid.
And wanted to act out at.
Yes. And so he's like, well, I can get Cary Grant to do it. He's my avatar.
So Clark is going to be my guy.
That's right.
This is how Hitch talks.
Precisely. So then we get a little bit of Cary Grant beating a guy up. He just starts hammering him, doing some gut shots, and
he pauses for a second. He goes, "I'm so sorry," and then he punches him again. And you're like, "Is Cary Grant that tough?" I don't think so.
So also at this, two things happen at this scene. The professor, the guy we saw in the exposition scene, he's there, and also this is when Van Damme acquires the little statue that's got microfiche in it that he's going to be shipping off to the enemy, of which we just know it's like the Russians, I guess, without saying it. Just talking about this Cold War.
Was it the Russians, you think?
Probably. East Germans. It's the commies.
The communists. They believe in nothing. Yeah. Like those kinds.
There's a comment here about importer-exporters, which just made me think of Seinfeld.
Matches. Really long matches.
And so, the professor... So, Cary Grant gets arrested by the cops, but then they make a phone call, and then obviously, the professor was making a phone call, and Cary Grant is redirected to the airport, where he meets up with the professor, and being like, hey, buddy, you got to go to Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, it's a strange, like...
you got to go to was it Rapid City, South Dakota?
Rapid City, and then it's like, and then after that, you got to go to the Grand Canyon, and then the Eiffel Tower, and then the pyramids. I said, we're gonna see them all, Chief.
Yeah, they just abandoned the whole plot.
Yeah, they do, and then it's Cart Grant just touring the world, and he says, "Wow, the coral reef is pretty coral."
Yeah,
and you go, okay.
So we get the scene at the foot of Mount Rushmore. It feels a lot like something out of Banff or something like that, or these kind of mountainous resort places, really high ceilings, lots of glass. Everyone's eating. Cary Grant shows up, Ball still acting real bitter to Eve, antagonizing her, saying, "Oh, I'll give you what you want, but I want the girl."
And he's like, "What do you want the girl for?" "I want to make her pay."
Yeah, and James Mason's a little like, what?" It's like, but he's like, she means a little bit something to him still, even though she's been schlepping this guy, this Cary Grant guy, and James Mason doesn't know how he feels about that, but he still likes her. Yeah. So there's a confrontation, and it appears that Eve shoots and kills Cary Grant and runs off. And they're like, this creates a diversion, I suppose, where now they assume that Thornhill's dead. And the Eve has done it, and so she's on the run. She has motivation to continue on with the baddies. But she was using a gun that shoots blanks.
Blanks?
And Cary Grant's not dead at all.
What?
Yeah. So there's a bit of a plot, another exchange in the woods, kind of in the wooded area. A park ranger punches out Cary Grant because he won't let her go and do this. And then we get the kind of like the final whole sequence of this movie, which is this mansion that doesn't exist, that's kind of just behind Mount Rushmore. And where we have Martin Landau's character who's figured out that Eve is in fact not all she claims. She has a gun that shoots blanks, and that Thornhill's not really dead. And James Mason's there's that awesome shot where the camera starts going up and above, saying, we'll resolve this over the ocean. In terms of figuring things out with her going
how would you resolve that situation?
Going out the plane. It's so good. It's so well done because the camera just goes up, suggesting someone's going to get dropped down.
Said, "Yeah, we're going to throw her out the plane," and they go with the what?
They're very charming and callous, horrible villains, but charming.
Yes. And
then we get the hard charging Bernard Herrmann score coming in here of Grant on the rescue mission, and because now he's like, I think there's like also the scene with the hospital that he runs through the window.
Yeah, that's where you see his yellow underpants again.
I see. Right. Yeah. So one of the fun bits here is he's now in like no tie time. He has no jacket on and no tie. He's just like shirtless and rugged man, so he can like climb better. And it's like because he's a changed man, because he learned back from the professor that she was the double agent. He's like, oh my god, I've exposed her. I feel so bad. It hits me in the feels. I got to assist her. But now he's like, oh, I'm going to go save her because I think it's really dangerous for her to go on with this. And I love it, goddammit.
Is that what he said too?
I think so. But there's like a point where this music reminds me so much of a Philip Glass score. There's kind of like minimalist building that goes on. Then it gets a little bit more operatic again. But there's like a Philip Glassness to it that I thought was like really nice.
Are you talking about the one that's like boom, ba-dum, ba-dum? Mm-hmm. That one, it kind of builds exactly to it.
An importer, exporter, yeah.
Yes, I see.
Yeah. And so we get the whole thing where he throws a matchbook down into the living room to say that don't go with them, come upstairs, and her finding it. It's really well acted, actually. Like her reaction and like her startledness of like, oh, I gotta hide this. I think it's really well done. She goes up, but she's like, well, I have to keep going with this. And then when Thornhill goes to save the day, the housekeeper's there holding him there with a gun until he realizes, wait a minute, that's the fake gun. I can just get up and leave, and who cares? Because there's all this tension because she knows she's going to get killed, and James Mason and Martin Landau, they're going to make sure that she gets on that goddamn plane, and they're walking along, super great. And then Thornhill grabs.
I was going to say, I think the big thing there is that that housemaid was a real ride or die because she actually tries to shoot him. And like, I know like threatening is one thing, but like she tries to shoot that gun a couple times. So that lady was a ride or die.
Mm-hmm.
She went for it, man. She tried to kill a guy.
She did. Well,
Yeah.
he gets away. He gets the car. He rides up, saves her, and then they start following after him. They have to stop the car at the gates as the goons start showing up. And then this is when we get to the big set piece of them kind of scampering over the Mount Rushmore of all fame. Because apparently the whole movie started with the idea that Alfred Hitchcock wanted to make a movie about a man going into Abraham Lincoln's nose or something like that. Something like that. And so that never happens in the film. So that's a big failure. That's a 1 out of 5. Al.
I think it happens in Richie Rich, the movie.
Yeah.
I think that has a scene in Mount Rushmore too, and I think someone might go in the nose on that one.
That's a little wink to the master.
The guy who made Richie Rich?
Yep.
Well, I think Richie Rich came out before North by Northwest.
Oh, okay. You might be right.
So I think, yeah.
So, antics, people falling to their deaths. Some very cool looking people falling to their death scenes.
Yes. Yeah, there's some good ones. Almost RoboCop-esque.
Mm-hmm. I think, almost as good as Claymation Guy.
Almost.
There is probably the scene that is like really well done is Cary Grant as he's like holding up Eva up off the cliff, and he like looks over at Martin Landau and he goes like, "Help me!" And then he starts walking over, and you're like, "Oh, maybe he's going to help." No, he's going to step on his hand. But it's I thought it was pretty good.
Mm.
It really sells the direness of the situation.
It does, but I also like when he was saying "help me," I was also kind of like, he's been trying to kill you for like,
but maybe
3 weeks.
But he's so desperate that he's even classing for the guy who's
Yeah.
trying to kill them for help. Maybe speaking to his humanity in that moment, but no, and I think Landau's body language sells that he might come over there to help, but then you realize with the camera work, he's not.
So why are they only showing his fingers?
Yeah.
Why are they showing that shoe?
And that guy's shoe, and then and it's so well done. And then of course the cavalry shows up. They've got James Mason in hand. They shoot Landau dead, who like keels over weirdly with his shoe. And then I think James Mason's like, not very sporting using a gun.
What is that supposed to mean?
I don't know.
Like he wanted him to like
kill them first, and then like you should have gone down there and taken care of it.
Yeah.
Shooting from up here, it's not very brave. He's an asshole. That's why James Mason's great.
I see.
And then of course you're like, oh no, are they going to be able to save her? She's like, I can't hold on. Grab onto my hand, and then it cuts to them in the back in the train as she jumps up into the bunk bed, and then a train goes into a tunnel because that's symbolic, RJ, of Cary Grant's penis.
Which penis?
His middle penis.
What?
His middle penis, not his top or bottom, but his middle penis.
His middle penis?
Yeah, going into Eva Marie Saint, and that's how it goes out.
I feel like that can't be how that ends.
That is literally how it ends, with the end.
It's pretty abrupt too, hey?
Yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, hey, we've overstayed our welcome. This movie's 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it just ends. Done.
And it's a hard cut. Porn happened.
Yeah, boop. I do believe that is like I think Alfred Hitchcock said, I think that's the most explicit thing I've ever shot.
He said it. The train is symbolic for a penis.
As he chortles. Penis.
Yeah, he is an old pervert, but who isn't, right?
Who isn't?
Know what I mean?
Yeah,
Sure.
So this movie's sweet. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if there's any great meaning to this movie. I see
Sure.
on Wikipedia there probably is themes and motifs, which just seem like they're more in line with like his own like filmmaking techniques, which I mean I don't know. It's just I call them motifs, I suppose. But it's like man on the run. There's a MacGuffin.
Who's a MacGuffin?
The microfiche, because it doesn't matter. All that stuff doesn't matter in the movie. Red herrings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's much in the way of moral relativism here in the movie. seems pretty one-sided.
I think the thing is, do whatever you feel and hope for the best, because that's pretty much what he does in this movie.
So here's what Hitchcock had to say about that final scene. Hitchcock called it a phallic symbol. Probably one of the most impudent shots I ever made.
What? Okay, whatever.
That's his style, man. And of course, some people say that this is the first James Bond film in a lot of ways.
No, I disagree. He's completely like inept at everything he does. He's not good at anything.
Right.
James Bond is good at everything. That's like his whole shtick.
But he kind of like, he's afraid to talk to women because he'll just make love to them.
Oh, and they've developed in all the right places. Is that another thing that he says?
I'd say that there's like a lot of similarities, though.
I mean,
kind of different locales.
It's just
goons,
he isn't James Bondish.
People getting drugged, drinking, and big set pieces.
No, I think like the story is Bondish.
Yeah.
I just think that Cart Grant isn't a Bond type. Not to me. Not in this, at least.
And not a single scene happens that is North by Northwest.
There is, in the airport, there's a sign that says Northwest. That is it.
Yeah. It is, we go to South Dakota.
South Dakota. That one.
Yeah. But it's a good title.
Yeah. I mean,
memorable.
A lot of people are into that.
I think this movie is like, I don't know, it's an action comedy movie, and I think people have been doing this sort of thing for a long time. Hell, even our friend Tony Scott probably was thinking about that movie here when making Enemy of the State.
Was that in Borkshington?
Yeah.
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 Borkshire. What were you talking about?
RJ, what do you think of North by Northwest?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good show. Jared. I like North by Northwest. It's got some good Hitch stuff in there. It's got some classic Hitch stuff in there. I don't much care for Cary Grant. And I think that's been well established on the show. He talks weird. Not as bad in this one as in other movies. This one's a little bit more tolerable, but I don't like how he talks a little bit. And his biggest problem is he doesn't know what to do with his hands, Jarrett. Did you notice his hands in this film?
I didn't really notice them until you
brought it up.
Sent me the screenshots of his clutchy hands. So one thing we haven't mentioned, because I was going to mention it this time out with Cary Grant. So there's been a lot of like discussion over the years of the what preferences Cary Grant had sexually, because he was married to a number of women over time, and then like as he got older and older, he kept marrying younger and younger. But back in his salad days, back in the 30s, him and actor Randolph Scott lived together in what they called the Bachelor Hall, as the studio called it.
Okay.
You see these photos of these two fit and fine specimens just hanging out, palling around, and the way these two like look at each other in these photos, you go, huh.
So they were boning?
Probably. I mean, that doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot beyond like, people can bone whoever they want to bone, RJ.
Sure.
And I think maybe at times he boned whoever he wanted. But there was always an image to be held up in this era of who you were boning. I follow. Like Rock Hudson would be one of these.
Like Rock Hudson?
Yes, he was also seen as a ladies' man.
Well, he was a bone machine, and that knows no genders, Jarrett.
Like the Tom Waits album?
No genders?
Bone Machine.
Bone Machine. Is that kind of like Clawhammer?
Clawhammer.
So what was I talking about?
But at one point, like I think it was like in the 70s, Chevy Chase made some crack about Cary Grant being a homosexual, and Cary Grant sued him.
Oh shit!
No.
Did he win?
I believe it was maybe settled out of court.
Yeah.
So there's some here and there's about it, but I was like thinking about this a little bit because the way that he like, I don't really buy the chemistry of Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint. Well, because when they do these scenes where they go in for a kiss. Now, in the documentary that I was watching, they said, well, we were both married. So there wasn't like snogging actually going on, but there was like these. So they always have to like. Well, this is a different time, RJ. They were like shooting around stuff, so the camera would be moving around just to position it, so you never actually really see them like full on playing some tonsil hockey. But there's those scenes where you see where his hands go on her head, and you're like, that isn't how a man would hold a woman's head.
It's not how anyone would do anything. Is what I think.
Right. So I do wonder, like, is he just not into this? But I mean,
but
or I don't know. But there is like these interviews with these like these women that were married to him, and they're like, well, I don't know. It seems like the implication was, yeah, we sure like fucked a lot. So like, I don't know. It's like, yeah,
okay. I just want to say that when Jarrett was describing leaning in, he was leaning into the camera for a kiss, and if Rob was here, I think he would have reciprocated with a little. He would have hit you with one of those little pecks. Mm-hmm. I think you could be right. I think it was just the attraction wasn't there for whatever reason. But he does hold his hands in a strange manner every time he's near him. They're either like the hover hands over her, which like I know in that scene he's put off by her, so he doesn't want to be intimate. I get it, but he's still like weird. But the way he holds her head when he's actually kissing her, he's got like these weird like. Just like this clench on her head as a whole, and it's just like I've never seen anyone do that ever in anything, almost ever. Never, Jarrett.
Never.
So that was weird. But yeah, you could be right. What were we talking about? North by Northwest. It's a good show. So yeah, what I was saying is I think Cary Grant's a little bit wacky, and then watching it again, it's been I've only seen it once before, and it was over 5 years ago. So, like, I was a little bit vague on, like, the fine details. So, like, when she got brought up, I was like, why is this lady into him so quickly, so fast? And it's like, man, she's super horny for him. And it's like, why? He's like a homeless dude that she knows killed people, or has been suspected to kill people. It's like, what's up with this? Why is she so upfront about it? And then you realize, I was like, oh, yes. Yeah, because she's in on it, too. But then also you're kind of like, but still. Like these people are playing it pretty hot and loose with each other pretty quickly, and it's like I wonder if that's what they were going for. You know what I mean, Jer? So she's all over it. He works through the no a lot, or he works through the yes quite a bit. Where he's like she agrees to everything, so I think it comes off not creepy, but the way he does talk is pretty weird. As we've mentioned before, he's like, I can't talk to women because then I'm gonna get them. And you go, what? You go, what do you mean you're going to get them, Cary? So that's kind of strange. But the story itself, as you kind of talked about, it's good stuff. It's Hitchcock stuff. I like how it plays out. It hits a lot of beats where even though some of it you're like, I'm pretty sure I know where this is going, but I'm still on board. And it kind of follows those trends. And I think especially now watching it, and you're like, well, the reason it's probably so familiar is because people have probably tried to emulate it and copy it a lot. So I think it's got that going for it at least. But story's good, characters are good. Martin Landau is awesome. I think he's my favorite part in this. I just like his presence as a solid, as a tough, a heavy. Yeah, as a good heavy.
A solid.
A solid. Good heavy. The Higher Goons is also good. And a classic tale of mistaken identity, Jerry. It could happen to anyone.
It could happen to me? It
could happen to anyone. And I think that's a big Hitchcock thing, right? Like Strangers on a Train is kind of like that too, where it's just kind of like, it's like, man, I wish my wife was gone. And then someone goes, oh yeah?
Mm-hmm. We could do something about that, yes.
Yeah, a little squid pro quo.
It's been so long since I've seen kind of the late mid period, the peak period of Hitchcock that it made me want to rewatch like Shadow of a Doubt and
do it.
Strangers on the Train and Rear Window and Vertigo. I haven't seen Vertigo forever.
I have in the last 5 years I've watched this, Vertigo, Rear Window, Strangers on a Train, and for for what it's worth, I think Rear Window is the best in my opinion, or my favorite at least. And then I think Strangers on a Train is pretty close afterwards.
Okay.
North by Northwest and Vertigo, I hold kind of similar planes just underneath. But I remember really liking Rear Window because I'm a Jimmy Stewart kind of guy, and because he talks really funny,
and he knows where to put his hands.
He knows how to hold them hands. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean, Jarrett? Mm-hmm. But Vertigo also very good, and Strangers on a Train. I remember liking it like a lot. I remember Ben Affleck was going to remake it for a while, but it never happened.
Oh yeah,
it just
some Patricia Highsmith.
Yeah, it never happened, which is too bad because I don't know. But yeah, Strangers is a good show. If you're in the vibe for it, you should definitely rewatch these movies.
Yeah, no, I get
the
probably.
Vibe.
Well, I think the Hitchcock stuff's still on Criterion Channel for another couple of days. Maybe we'll just check it out. Maybe pop on some of that window action.
Ooh, I got it on Blue. Ooh. It's not 4K. But
yeah, I've got them. I've got them all somewhere. It's just when you can just click over on the stream button.
Oh, it's so easy.
So smooth.
So smooth. Yeah. I think the point is we like Hitch. Rob Eagle likes Hitch. Right, Rob?
Yes.
Yes. So what's not to like? Yeah, it's a good show. Pretty good show.
You want to hear who hates North by Northwest?
I mean, I imagine there's a whole camp of people who just hate Hitchcock no matter what it is.
They just don't like old movies, and they watch them and they go, this is so fucking boring, because that's kind of what it is. But let's pick a few. I jumped around a little bit. Cicala.
Okay.
Half a star. Not only have I watched the movie once, but I've also rewatched some scenes twice because I couldn't understand what was happening, and yet I haven't figured out what the plot was. This kind of movies remind me of just how fucking stupid I am. Didn't like it.
There's nothing confusing about this movie.
No, I think as we explained, they make sure that you know what's going on.
Yeah. There's nothing confusing about this. This person only has 2 5-star films, and one of them is Arrival. And it's like, that movie's probably more confusing than this one is.
Yeah, probably.
Favorite films include Uncut Gems, Inglourious Bastards, Ad Astra, and The Irishman.
Ooh, that's got hands.
That's got hands. Big hands.
Any half stars?
Big hands.
No. This?
No half stars.
They just hate this movie.
They just hate. Well, they've only logged 200 movies total.
Okay, this is the worst they've ever seen. Good.
Apparently, yeah. Apparently.
Well, what about Baby Bam? Half a star.
Let's see.
For my film final, I had to write an essay, and I took that opportunity to compare Alfred Hitchcock to Michael Bay, and I think that's when I truly peaked in life. I got a B+. My teacher wasn't too happy.
Person seems a little bit too into themselves.
Baby Bam.
Their bio says, I hate movies but love attention. So
there you go.
They got that going for them. 5 stars to A24 Films. And Ad Astra again popping up. Strangely. The new Suspiria film. Some Marvel movies, also 5 stars. Let's go to some half-star films. This all looks like shit. Mm-hmm. House That Jack Built, Velvet Buzzsaw, one of your faves, Apostle, North by Northwest, Bright, Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
A lot of films.
A lot of films. One more, maybe.
This person also watched The Matrix Resurrections twice.
Oh.
In what looks like the span of a single day. No, 2 days apart. So they watched it 2 days apart. Okay. And 3 stars both times.
Okay. Some of these are just so silly. This one's got Shinji as their avatar. Ian, 1 star.
Okay.
Man, I fucking hate this movie. F you, Hitchcock, you overrated piece of shit. This movie has not aged well. Cary Grant does okay, though.
What? I mean, that's not what I would take out of this. Ian says, my passion is watching movies halfway and end them years later. Big anime boy loves Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle, Stolen Kisses, an Antoine Donnell film, and A Summer's Tale from 1996, or Conte de Deux is the French pronunciation of that film. Jarrett.
I got one more for you on the next page, RJ.
Okay.
From Nick 9000.
Sure.
I never knew why North by Northwest is so admired. There's absolutely nothing about this movie that makes it noteworthy. Not the flat camera work, not the phoned-in actors, not the circus music, not the shallow story. Nothing. It's a silly popcorn adventure, and you can find much more entertaining popcorn adventures from Hitchcock's contemporaries.
I mean, I guess that's the way you want to look at it. Nick 9000, I'm just some other jerk on the internet who writes capsule reviews. Mm-hmm. Okay. Favorite films include Eyes Wide Shut, M, Excalibur, and Seven Samurai. You know those ones, Jarrett?
I do.
Half-star films include Hubie Halloween, the Adam Sandler classic.
Yep.
Kong, Skull Island, Pan, the Peter Pan film, and Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen. 5-star films include Nosferatu, The Vampire, and Spaceballs. You know Spaceballs, Jarrett? Oh, and Joker, the incel flick.
Oh.
Interesting. Very
well,
interesting.
That's it for the heat.
Yeah.
Any final words on North by Northwest?
Yeah, it's a good show.
It's a good show. I was watching there's like a feature-length documentary, I think it was like on PBS originally, on Cary Grant that I decided to watch. Just had it on, seeing if there was any anecdotes that popped up. There was one tale that came along that I'm totally blanking out on. Oh, there it is. So it's like kind of like, I've actually seen his last movie when we watched Tokyo Olympiad. It's a movie that's kind of set during the Tokyo Olympics back in 1964. It got released in 66. And then he gets retires. He's done acting. He never acts again. He just becomes like he winds up on the boards of a lot of big companies. So he just becomes like a businessman, I guess. I mean, he looks basically the same, just like white haired, and he wears big glasses, kind of Martin Scorsese style glasses. Scorsese-esque hands. And I guess there's one point, like, so he's getting older and older. He goes to some awards thing, and he just goes over to it to like get in, and it's like, oh, I need my pass. And it's like, a name, Cary Grant. And she like looks up. You don't look like Cary Grant. And he responds, well, that nobody does. Because Cary Grant in the collective mind, RJ, is so handsome that no one can look like Cary Grant, even himself now. That's wit, RJ. That's wit.
Have you ever dropped one of those on someone?
I have not. I haven't had the opportunity. I'm not an old classy guy yet.
You don't look like Fudge Duncan, and then you go, nobody does.
That's the problem. Nobody does.
Yeah, you do look like a Fudge, though. Like you look like your middle name is Fudge.
That's right.
Fudge Duncan.
Fudge Duncan.
Yeah.
Well, that's that.
Mattress,
man. That's
man.
It. Let's throw this Laserdisc in the trash.
Yeah,
I haven't even got a player.
You don't got a Laserdisc?
I don't. Jeez, I know.
How many left do you think are in the world? Like 5?
Oh, at least 5, maybe 10 at the most.
Ooh. Okay, interesting.
After the break, the podcast just goes deep into that canyon. Right in there, RJ.
Sounds like Rob Eagle's back.
Oh, your cat just ran away.
Yeah, she's put off by what you said.
She's going deep in there with that podcast.
So, Jesus, I gotta get away from this thing.